Yeah, howdy folks. I like to share with you something, and I'm going to read some parts of the Bible because of that. And I'm starting with Genesis 4. Genesis 4 verse, what is it? Oh, 16. Cain, the son of Adam and Eve, he killed his brother Abel, as we all know, according to the Bible. And then God punished Cain, and he sent him away to the east. Then Cain went away from the face of the Lord, and he went and lived in the land Nod, at the east of Eden. And Cain had sexual intercourse with his wife, and she became pregnant and begot Enoch. Okay, that's the first one. Second is Genesis 20. Verse 10. Abram is in some country, or it was Egypt or something like that. But he came to Abimelech. There's a king over there in that country, and that Abimelech, he took the wife of Abram, thinking it was his sister. That's what Abram told that king. Well, she's my sister. And but God showed to him, to Abimelech, stay off Sarah, because she's the wife of Abraham and not his wife. So stay off. And so God intervened. And God says to that Abimelech, stay off the wife of this man, because he's a prophet. And so stay off, and let him pray for you so that you may live. And then Abimelech called Abram to himself and said, "Man, what have you done? You told me she was your sister, and now she appears to be your wife." And then also said Abimelech to Abram, "What have you in mind that you did this to me?" And Abram said, "Well, I was thinking, maybe there is no fear of the Lord in this place, and they shall kill me because of my wife. But next to that," and this is important, "next to that, she is indeed my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she has become my wife." Okay, that's that thing. So Abram married his sister, his half-sister. Third thing, Genesis 24. Verse 3 and 4. And Isaac was born, the son of Abraham was born, Isaac. And Abraham is looking for a wife for Abraham. And so what does Abraham? Abraham has a servant, Eliezer, and he sends Eliezer, and this is where the piece is about. And that's what Abram says. Swear to the God of the heavens and the earth, that you will find my son no wife from the daughters of Canaan, in whose midst I live. But you shall go to my country, where I come from, and to my kinship, to my family, actually, and find a wife for my son Isaac. So that servant Eliezer, he should go to the family of Abraham, so that is back in Haran, where he came from, and where Abraham traveled from Ur of the Chaldeans, that's in Mesopotamia, what we call Iraq nowadays, where Kuwait lays nowadays, and he always went through via the Euphrates and the Tigris. He went to Haran in the north, and then descendants to Israel. And at that time it was the land of the Canaanites. But Abram says to his servant, "Okay, go back to Haran." Was it Haran? well, at least in the city where he used to live and where his family is still living. And he said, find a wife amongst my family for my son, Isaac. And then in verse, what is it? 10 it was, I think. No. 15, yeah. And he, the servant, was not spoken. He prayed to God for, okay, God, help me find this girl. And he wasn't spoken, finished speaking to God. Or see, Rebecca, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the woman of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. And she came outside with a bottle on her shoulder. And the girl was very beautiful, and she was still a virgin. So, and eventually we know that Isaac marries Rebecca, his niece, of the brother of Abraham. Yeah. Okay, we go on to Genesis 29. And Jacob, the son of Isaac, he had to flee for Esau, his brother, because he stole his firstborn rights. So he was afraid, and he went back to Laban, his uncle. And there he came there, and then he fell in love with his niece Rachel. And Laban said to Jacob, why would you, because you are my kin, you are our relative, you are family from me, serve me for nothing? Tell me, what will be your income, or what would be your income? Now Laban had two daughters. The oldest was Leah, and the youngest was Rachel. Leah's eyes was looking. I don't know how to translate it in English. But Rachel was a beauty of was a beauty to see, and beauty. Yes, she was beauty. And Jacob had Rachel. Jacob loved Rachel. That's why he said, I want to work 7 years for you, for your youngest daughter Rachel. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I give her to another man. Stay with me. And because of that, Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and those were in his eyes like several days because he loved her. Well, eventually Jacob got he married Leah instead of Rachel in the first place because his uncle Laban misled him, but later on he marries also Rachel. So he marries two of his nieces. Okay. Okay. Now I have to open it again. Okay. I have to open an article, and that is, yeah. There is in the Science magazine a very known peer-reviewed science magazine, Nature. In Nature magazine there is an article called Neanderthal Genome Reveals Incest, Interbreeding and Mystery. So what they found out is that the human beings, Neanderthals are just human beings, are just like you and me, but older. I mean, in the days of Abraham begot 175. Noah became 900 and some years. And if you become older, you get the appearance, your skeleton gets the appearance of what we call then a Neanderthal person. But it's just a skeleton of a very old man. 900 years, 600 years, 800 years, 200 years old. And because if a person becomes older, then your skeleton gets the appearance of what we call the skeleton of a Neanderthal person. And what we see is that science has found out that there was interbreeding. So what we call today incest in that in those humans. And well, what we did read is that Cain married his own sister, because Adam and Eve, I can read it also to you. Adam became 930 years old. Here it says in Genesis 5. This is the genealogist list of Adam. At the day that God created Adam, he made him after the likeness of God. Man and women, he created them, and he blessed them and called them human at the day that they were created. Then when Adam was 130 years, he begot a son after his likeness, after his image, and he called him Seth. And the days of Adam, after he begotten Seth, were 800 years. And he got sons and daughters. So were all the days of Adam, who had lived 930 years old, and he died. So, in the beginning day, there were only Adam and Eve. They have got sons and daughters, Cain, Abel, and Seth, and some more sons and daughters. Well, the earliest wives of the sons of Adam had to marry their own sisters. It was common. And so what we see is that, and we also see that with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they married in their own family. In those days, it was very common to marry within the family. Well, today we would call that incest, and today, in our days, that would cause genetically problems and deformities, genetically spoken. In those days, it was not so. Why? Because, okay, in the time of Adam and Eve, it was a paradise. They were erected from the paradise. They were created in paradise. So, genetic deformities were not present at that moment. Yeah. The genetic deformities came starting from after the Noah flood. Well, there is a theory, the hydroplate theory of Walter Brown, and he says in the beginning of the earth, before the Noah flood, there was a protective shield around the earth that protected the earth from all kinds of cosmic radiation. And after the Noah flood, that protection was gone. And from the flood, that was about 1700 years after the first day of creation, then the flood came, and it destroyed, so to say, the atmosphere that was present before the flood, so that the cosmic radiation could enter the atmosphere of the earth and do damage to our genetic coding. Well, what you see is that Adam, he became 930 years old. 930 years old. And there are many, or there are some recordings, very old recordings, that people indeed became very, very, very old in those days. It is written down. So the Sumerian kings list is one example of it. That it reports that people before the flood, before the diluvial flood, people became very, very old. And what we see after the flood is that the ages of the people decline in a logarithmic way. 900 years, 800, 600, 400, 200, and eventually about 120 years in average. Of course, the one became 150, otherwise the other became 80. So on the average, 180. Later on in Moses' prescriptions, he said that the strong people will, on average, become 80 years old, and that is exactly what we see today. And that the average person becomes around 80 on average. But what you see is that in the beginning, from the before the flood, until Moses, that people were allowed to marry in the family, and that is exactly what you see in the story. What is written down in in the Nature article, and it's called Neanderthal Genome Reveals Incest, Interbreeding and Mystery. So what science has found recently, scientifically correct, is what the Bible has told us about 6,000 years to about 4,000 years, 3,500 years back. I mean, the stories of Cain and Abel and all those and all the children of Adam and Eve are about 6,000 years old. So the first story, Genesis, the stories of Genesis are about 6,000 years old. The story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are about 4,000 years old. So what science has found today, 6,000 years later, as the Bible has reported, is that yes, indeed, in the beginning when humanity arose and humanity came to be, yes, indeed, people married with each other in interfamily. Only in the time of Moses, for the first time received the commandments from God not to marry into the family. Because God knew, that's why he gave the rule not to marry into the family, because he knew that the effects of genetic deformities would have negative consequences in the end. And today, that's still true. Today, we know that incest will cause deformities and Down syndrome type of diseases with people. But before Moses, this was not the case because the genetic deformities were not present yet. The genetic deformities came after the flood of Noah, when the cosmic radiation was not blocked by the shell that surrounded Earth, and the atmosphere was totally different, so that the cosmic radiation and other kinds of radiation could have effect on our genetic code. How do we know this? Well, there is another story in Genesis as well that gives us some insight in this fact. And that is this one. And that is Genesis 9, verse 20. And Noah became a landman and planted a vineyard. And when he drank from the wine, he became drunk. And he was naked in his tent, etc. But Noah, as we see, in Genesis 6, he says, and the Lord said, I will wipe away all the humanity from the earth, the face of the earth that I created, because the men are wicked, and they make war and cheat on each other, etc., etc. So the man, I will erase them from the face of the earth, the people as well as the flocks and the creeping animals and the fowl of the heavens, because I'm sorry that I made them, because they're evil. But Noah found mercy in the eyes of the Lord. And Noah was considered amongst his time, the people of his time, to be a very righteous and indisputable man. And Noah, he walked with God. So Noah was very righteous. So when after the flood he planted a vineyard and he made grape juice, then he didn't expect to become drunk. What does it tell us? That the grape juice turned into wine, which not happened before the flood, because there was bacteria, but bacteria were only meant to break down everything that was like leaves and unfortunately human and animal bodies that died, etc. So that's the first instance of the bacteria that were there. But after the flood, these bacteria were changed so that they only could produce alcohol instead of carbon dioxide. Because in the chemical cycles in the bacteria, all these cycles, the citric acid cycle, for example, it's meant for generating energy, and the end product is CO2, carbon dioxide. But because of the genetic change, the mutations in those bacteria, they stopped at making CO2, and they stopped in that process. They stopped and made alcohol in exchange. So Noah, unintendedly and unknowing, became drunk on grape juice. And because Noah, he was a righteous man, and he would not get drunk based on himself. I mean, why would he get drunk and get naked in his own tent? So that is an indication. Next to that, we see that God has put a rainbow in the sky. And it was not before the flood. Why? Because the atmosphere was changed. And before the flood, the atmosphere was in such condition that a rainbow could never appear. The only time that a rainbow could appear was after the flood, because the atmosphere has changed. And also the ages of human beings declined, like I said before, from 800, of 900, 800, 600, 400, 200, and 120 approximately. Why? Because the cosmic radiation has influenced our bodies. It's declining. And science has proven this fact altogether correct, that people before the flood and shortly after the flood, from Noah to Moses, that people married within the family, because incest was not as dangerous as now, because the genetic code now, it has been degenerated so that incest will cause problems. Before that, it was no problem, and science again has proven this to be correct. So what we call now incest was very normal in the days of from Adam to Moses, that they married in the family. And back then it did not cause problems. Today it does, because of genetic deformities. That's the message what I want to show. And again, correct science proves what the Bible says for many thousand years already. That's what I want to leave this message with, or leave you with this message. Hope you understand. If you have questions, you can ask them on singingpreacher@live.nl. Okay, this is a very important message. Bye-bye.